Imagine the night has fallen, and the air grows colder as the last traces of light fade from the horizon. There are no cars, no electric lamps, no familiar hum of modern technology. There is only a darkness that feels nearly absolute, accompanied by the whisper of wind slipping through the gaps of trees, the faint stirrings of insects, and the sound of one's heartbeat, clearer because of the stillness. In such a state, prehistoric humans once lived, breathed, and struggled to endure. They had no brick houses, no knowledge of metal, no written words. Yet they possessed bodies, instincts, and fears that were not so different from our own. When we allow our imagination to drift back thousands of years, we might see a small group of humans gathered around a modest fire. The fire flickers, sometimes sparking, casting an orange light that is both warm and fragile. Around the flames, there are faces that look tired yet vigilant, eyes fixed on the surrounding darkness, as though from the forest's shadows something threatening could emerge at any moment. They sit quietly, their hands gripping stones, sticks, or sharpened bones, unwilling to let their guard down even slightly. Their lives depend entirely on the balance between courage to hunt and the fear that urges them to stay close to the fire. The night is the most vulnerable time, and yet night also becomes the stage for togetherness. For only in gathering do they find some relief from the constant awareness that tomorrow might not come safely. As we close our eyes in imagination, it feels as though we can hear their heavy breathing, sense the dragging passage of time, and picture how unforgiving the world must have been without shelter, how fragile the human body was against a vast and mysterious wilderness. There is no certainty in each night, only the small flame shivering bodies, and the faint hope that another day would be given to them. In the calm of this narration, imagine yourself sitting beside them on the cold ground, hearing the slow crackle of burning wood, watching the fires struggle to withstand the push of the wind. Let your mind drift into that atmosphere, for it is from here that the story of the shadow spears, the weapons of vanished hunters, will slowly unfold before us. In that calm atmosphere, the campfire was not merely a source of heat, but also a symbol that soothed the soul. The flickering flames cast light upon their faces, softening for a moment the harsh lines carved by life in the wild. The small children who remained awake curled close to their mothers, their eyes wide, staring into the fire, as though wanting to drink in every spark that appeared. The elders sat more quietly, though their gazes were deep and cautious, carrying memories of nights before, when a sudden roar broke from the trees, or when the heavy steps of a great beast shook the ground around their gathering. Fire was always the boundary between the known and the unknown. As long as the fire burned, they felt protected, even if only within the fragile illusion of safety. Yet beyond the reach of the light, the world remained dark, wild, and unpredictable. Every blade of grass that moved could be nothing more than a passing breeze, or it could be the slow crawl of a predator. No one ever truly knew. Among that small circle of flames, stories began to flow. The low voice of an old man could be heard, perhaps telling of a hunt for the mighty mammoth they once witnessed, or perhaps of spirits they believed dwelled in the rocks and rivers. These tales were not merely entertainment, but also bonds, guides and warnings. The children who listened would grow with the impression that the vast world was filled with dangers, but also imbued with meanings that had to be understood. Within each word lay fear and hope, memories of those who did not return from the hunt, and faint prayers that unseen powers might guard them through that night. We, listening from the distance of time, can only imagine how heavy the silence must have been between sentences. How long the stillness in the spaces of the story when everyone turned their heads toward the darkness, making sure no glinting eyes peered back from the trees. There lay the essence of safety, not from stone walls or wooden doors, but from firelight, from the circle of bodies gathered together, and from the repeated narrative that built a shared imagination capable of holding back the fear from outside. And so when we allow our minds to drift deeper, we may feel that every story told before a prehistoric fire was not just a tale, but a mirror of how humans first tried to calm themselves, how they tried to tame uncertainty, and how they bound themselves to something greater than their fragile flesh. The night went on, the wind grew sharper, and the fire sometimes weakened, but the words continued to flow, like mantras that kept the darkness from swallowing everything at once. In a time long before numbers were recorded in ink, on tree bark, or sheets of papyrus, in a land now sealed beneath eternal ice and frozen tundra, there once was a great hunt that united a group of early humans with their stone-tipped spears. The earth then stood at the edge of an ice age, the air sharper than the slash of a blade, every breath turning into vapor that froze before fading. These humans knew no cities or walls. They moved endlessly, following the tracks of beasts far larger than themselves. Mammoths, giant bison, and deer, whose antlers resembled dead trees. The spears they carried were more than tools. They were the thin line between starvation and survival. Stone points were sharpened with patience. Sinew and plant fibers bound them to long wooden shafts, each thread holding a fragile hope that the thrust might pierce the thick hide of the beasts they pursued. Yet not all spears returned. Many broke, left behind in frozen earth, slowly buried by the march of time. There begins the mystery. For what remained was not only the weapon, but the unanswered question of who wielded it and what fate befell them. Along the hunting paths stretching from the edges of frozen rivers to valleys covered in eternal snow, the prehistoric hunters moved cautiously, guided by instincts inherited from generations before them. Instincts that separated them from paralyzing fear and led them to the courage necessary to face the furry giants wandering the frozen plains. Every sound in the snow was considered either a sign of danger or opportunity, and every footprint left in the frozen ground became a secret map, understood only by trained eyes. The hunters carried their spears with firm grips, their arms tense, bodies quivering with caution, eyes sharp as they pierced through the cold mist shrouding the land. They knew that one mistake, one step too quick or too slow, could mean the difference between life and death. There were no written records to tell their story, only the remains of animal bones and broken spear fragments scattered across the frozen terrain. Silent witnesses of nights full of tension and days wrapped in fear. Amid the shadows of dwarf trees and rocks protruding from the snow, they often paused, holding their breath, listening to the wind carrying the scent of frozen earth, animal fur, and blood signaling a hunt nearly complete. In that silence, there was a shared awareness that they were not merely hunting for food, but also defending themselves against a harsh world. A world demanding courage and endurance beyond what we can imagine today. In the dark night, when the moon reflected its pale light over the snow, their shadows stretched and blended with the shadows of trees, stones, and lurking creatures, creating a mysterious dance between humans and nature that remains an enigma to this day, whispering questions about how they felt what they thought and how they conquered the fear inherent in every step they took. In the silent valleys shrouded in cold mist, the prehistoric hunters continued their journey following tracks. Recognizable only 2 trained eyes tracks that led them through frozen pine forest rivers flowing slowly beneath thin ice layers and steep rocky cliffs, where the shadows of ancient tigers and mammoths lurked behind the fog. Every step they took was measured by the rhythm of their breaths, breathing that was both calming and tense, for in every second lay the possibility of encountering a large creature that could end their life instantly. In the stillness of night, the sound of snow being crushed underfoot echoed like a reverberation from the past, and the piercing wind carried the scent of frozen earth, trapped animal flesh, and distant campfire smoke. Signs of life hidden behind shadows. The hunters devised strategies silently, signaling each other with eyes and fingers, because words could be heard by enemies or prey sensitive to sound. They scanned the horizon cautiously, observing every contour of the land, every cracked or moving tree trunk, for that was where the secrets of the night lay. Secrets unwritten, known only to those living in that era. Their spears, made of carefully sharpened stone and wood, became extensions of their bodies, tools for survival as well as symbols of courage passed down through generations. In that silence, they also heard whispers seemingly coming from nature itself, whispers reminding them that humans were but a small part of the vast cycle of life. A cycle uniting life and death, bravery and fear, pursuit and loss. Some would return with victory, carrying enough prey to survive, while others would vanish into darkness, their bodies covered by snow, leaving traces only in the memories held in the hearts of their companions. And above all, the moon hung low, illuminating the snow and shadows with its pale light, reminding that every step, every breath, and every passing second was part of a story undocumented, a story of endurance, tension, and courage of prehistoric humans who lived, struggled, and remained a mystery to the world long after they were gone. On a morning still cloaked in thin mist, the hunters opened their eyes to a world that appeared silent, yet full of secrets. The damp earth, freshly kissed by the night rain, still carried the scent of wet soil and decaying leaves, a mixture of aromas that sharpened their sense of smell, alerting them to signs of life or danger. Meanwhile, the remnants of last night's fire slowly faded, leaving ashes and charcoal marking their meeting place. Every object left behind bones of animals already utilized. Sharpened stone fragments, scattered leaves stood as silent witnesses to prehistoric activity. Stories of hunger, bravery, and strategies executed quietly and cautiously. Between the trees, they inspected traps set for small game, while the braver ones gazed from hilltops, searching for larger prey that could feed the entire group. Their movements were slow but deliberate, imitating the rhythm of nature as if their bodies were connected to the earth, water, and air, understanding a cadence older than human memory. Every unusual sound, from a snapping twig to the whisper of wind, was captured and analyzed. Every footprint on soft ground could be a clue of animals or other humans they had yet to notice. Even when resting briefly under towering trees, they remained vigilant, eyes scanning the distance as if they could glimpse the future in shadows, dancing amid mist and morning sunlight. In this silence, they also observed one another, reading gestures, glances, and simple yet meaningful facial expressions, signs of solidarity, fear, and tension understood only by those living in a world full of uncertainties and hidden threats. Each step, each breath, and every action was part of a tightly woven pattern of life, as if writing a story about survival, about the same struggle between humans and nature, humans and animals, humans and mysteries that remained unanswered. And as the sun gradually rose, piercing the mist and illuminating the frozen ground, their shadows stretched long and winding, like secret lines left by ancient times, guiding us to understand how complex the daily lives of prehistoric humans were, where strategy, courage, and patience blended in an unheard yet palpable harmony in every pulse of life. As the sun rose slightly higher, the air began to warm, but still carried a chill that clung to the skin. The hunters moved slowly through the dense forest, brushing past shrubs and large trees with sharp eyes, searching for signs of animals yet unseen. Every step on the damp ground produced faint sounds, snapping twigs, rustling leaves, and the subtle noise of soil pressed underfoot. All became part of a secret language understood only by those living close to nature. Along the edge of a small river, some of them discovered large footprints of unknown origin, leaving faint marks in the wet mud. The tracks quickened their hearts because it could be a larger creature than they had ever encountered, perhaps a predator lurking from afar. Meanwhile, they also checked traps set the night before, finding some empty and some that caught large rats or birds. The catch would supplement the group's food, yet they knew that every creature lost from a trap was part of the forest's life cycle, and they did not rush to take everything. In the shadow of the trees, sunlight pierced through the leaves, illuminating spiderwebs, exposed roots, and cracked soil from seasonal changes, forming a landscape resembling a secret map of the ancient world. Meanwhile, the sounds of the previous night rustling leaves, water noises, and occasional animal cries still echoed in their minds, giving subconscious warnings to remain vigilant. Some hunters paused, pressing their ears to the ground or gazing into the distance, trying to read invisible signs, perhaps animal tracks, traces of other humans, or something beyond comprehension. They spoke little, for silence was a language understood by groups living in uncertainty, where a small mistake could mean death. They assessed each other through subtle movements, posture, and seldom spoken expressions, building an unseen yet strong solidarity and trust. Every movement was part of a long, cautious daily ritual where strategy, intuition, and experience merged to ensure survival. Amid the quiet forest, one could sometimes see animal bones long buried, stone fragments used as tools. and remnants of ancient fires leaving dark charcoal, all part of a silent story only readable by those who observe closely. The atmosphere seemed to summon memories of the past, whispers from ancestors watching this world from the shadow of trees, reminding that every day was the same struggle between humans and nature. Humans and animals, humans and secrets never fully revealed. As they continued moving, the wind carried the damp aroma of leaves and soil, whispering softly as if narrating untold stories unheard by ordinary ears. Stories of long nights, tense days, and courage that had to be maintained without pause. All of it formed a life rhythm, calm yet full of tension, where every breath was a calculation, every step a decision, and every glance a prediction of unknown possibilities, maintaining the balance between life and death in a harsh yet beautiful world. Amid the tall trees and thick underbrush, some hunters discovered footprints unlike any before. Deeper and aligned, as if deliberately made by a creature with a specific purpose. The tracks appeared not to belong to ordinary animals. The size of the feet, depth of the impressions, and direction of steps suggested something larger and stronger than ordinary humans. They exchanged glances, understanding without words that this was a sign to be taken seriously. The wind carried the scent of wet soil and decaying leaves, evoking a calm but held-breath fear, as if the entire forest awaited their next movement. In the distance, the sound of cracking wood could be heard, perhaps just a broken branch or something far more ominous. Yet they did not stop. Their movement remained slow, cautious, following tracks that seemed to call them to uncover hidden secrets deep in the forest. Meanwhile, the shadows of the trees stretching across the ground began to lengthen, softening the sunlight filtering through the leaves, creating a magical atmosphere that blurred the line between reality and imagination. Every sound, from rustling leaves to droplets of water falling from foliage, was noted. Sometimes it sounded like whispers from the past, as if the footsteps of ancient humans tried to speak across time. They encountered large stones, arranged oddly, like natural formations deliberately used as markers or resting places for ancestors, yet no one truly knew their purpose. Near the stone formations lay remnants of long-extinguished fires, dark and dusty charcoal, giving the impression that ancient people had once gathered there, perhaps for rituals or important meetings. The lingering smell of smoke in the earth and stones seemed to remain, reminding them that life unfolded between courage, prayer, and earthy fear, merging with the same nature. Some members paused to study the footprints and stone positions, attempting to interpret patterns that could be secret maps left by prehistoric humans. Their analysis was calm, full of intuition and inherited experience, blending observation with imagination. Every step, every movement was a direct lesson from a harsh yet secretly beautiful world. As time passed, shadows lengthened. Night animal sounds began, and the forest became a labyrinth, forcing vigilance, yet also deep curiosity about mysteries yet to be revealed. Among fallen leaves and damp soil, they discovered remnants of hunted animals, broken stone tools, and some marks seemingly placed as messages for future generations, but their meaning remained hidden to modern eyes. All of it formed an experience combining reality and shadow, where historical facts blended with speculation, and each trace was a story waiting to be read. As night approached, the scent of wet earth and foliage intensified, reminding them that this forest was a living world full of secrets, and humans were only a small part of an endless long story, leaving traces as whispers among whispers of wind and falling leaves. In the deepening night, the hunters noticed the sounds of nocturnal animals that sounded like strange rhythms, as if those sounds were signaling the presence of prey or marking areas to avoid. They moved cautiously, observing every twig movement, every rustle of leaves, and every shifting shadow. At several points, they found disturbed soil, perhaps traces of animals or remnants of lost prehistoric humans, evoking a quiet but held-breath fear, as if time itself paused briefly to make space for a living mystery. The small torchlight reflected long shadows on the trees, creating illusions of movement that were difficult to distinguish from reality and imagination. Some of them began to feel vibrations in the ground beneath their feet, signs of large animals moving nearby, though the sound never fully emerged, only felt and imagined. Amid the trees, they discovered large stones arranged like menhirs, standing upright despite neglect by time, as if waiting for someone capable of reading their purpose. Nearby, remnants of ancient fires lay, charcoal that still carried the scent of wood burned thousands of years ago, suggesting that this place had once been a center of life or forgotten rituals. The atmosphere grew quieter as the wind carried the scent of wet earth and decaying leaves, evoking a gentle melancholia, as if nature itself gazed and reminded that prehistoric life always hid behind fragile layers of time. They studied unusual footprints, perhaps not human, trying to interpret every indentation in the soil, every line on stones that could be hidden messages. In the silence, their own shadows seemed to move slowly among the trees, blending vigilance with awe toward a world full of secrets. Some hunters paused to record the position of stones and footprints, arranging patterns that could form a mysterious map or code left by vanished generations. Each step brought them closer to the heart of the mystery, where reality mingled with imagination, and every moment expanded their understanding of prehistoric life and its connection with the surrounding nature. Among the dense trees and long shadows, they found animal bones seemingly placed deliberately, broken stone tools, and markings that could be ritual symbols, yet their meaning remained hidden to modern eyes. All of this created a profound atmosphere where history and fantasy merged, and every step became a learning experience, gradually unveiling a long-lost world. As the night deepened, shadows of the trees covered every part of the ground. Nocturnal animal sounds became clearer, yet remained faint, and the wind carried whispers seemingly from the past, reminding that prehistoric life persists in the form of traces and remnants left on the earth. The aroma of soil, wood, and wet leaves emphasized the human connection to nature, where every step and every observation is part of a long story that never truly ends. At the winding riverbank, the hunters observed the water's surface reflecting starlight softly, creating the illusion of a luminous path leading to another world. The water was cold and clear, yet it held secrets of thousands of years, footprints of vanished animals, discarded fragments of stone tools, and bones buried in the muddy riverbed. They bent to touch the water, feeling its gentle flow, their own shadows merging with the shadows of surrounding trees. In some spots, slippery stones jutted from the river, forming patterns that seemed natural but could have been deliberately arranged. Remnants of ancient rituals or forgotten territorial markers. Along the riverbank, wet grass and green moss-covered tracks, yet trained eyes could read faint patterns indicating hunting paths or gathering spots of prehistoric groups. Some hunters paused to examine shards of bark and bones stuck to rocks, trying to discern whether these items were merely remnants of daily life or symbols with ritual significance. The scent of wet soil mixed with damp wood reminded them of ancient rainy seasons when the first humans learned to manage water, build shelters, and seek food in harsh and uncertain environments. The wind carried faint sounds, perhaps nocturnal animals or whispers from the past, heightening their alertness while connecting them to the life that once existed there. In the distance, thin mist cloaked the forest, creating illusions of dark corridors that called imagination to explore, even though the path was dangerous and untamed. Some hunters touched the river's stone walls, feeling the rough textures telling the long story of erosion and the imprints of human hands long gone. The atmosphere was so calm, almost meditative, where every breath synchronized with the heartbeat of the earth, and every step reminded them of human vulnerability to nature and time. They noted the positions of stones, river flows, and tree shapes, as these could form secret maps for those seeking hidden knowledge about the prehistoric world. Occasionally, the sound of water striking rocks created a rhythm both soothing and mysterious, as if the river itself narrated its long story. The dark night concealed everything, yet starlight falling on the water reminded that prehistoric humans also gazed at the sky, measured time, and sought meaning in the cosmos. Each hunter felt a mixture of awe and fear, standing at the boundary of reality and shadows of the past, where history and imagination converged. And every footprint they followed became a bridge to untold secrets. In the deeper valley, morning mist still clung between tall trees and moss-covered stones, creating an atmosphere like a world untouched by time. Each step of the hunters left prints in the damp soil, while the rustle of leaves and breaking twigs became a faint yet soothing natural music. Around a small river, ancient animal nests and excavation marks for roots or tubers were faintly visible, as if the earth itself preserved archives of life long past. On some cliffs, scratch marks in the rock appeared, perhaps ritual traces, symbols for other tribe members or hunting markers, yet no one truly knows their meaning now. The hunters observed every detail, from the texture of tree bark to variations in moss color, knowing that small things could indicate seasonal changes or animal migration patterns essential for hunting. Cold wind brushed against their skin, carrying the scent of wet soil, wood, and decaying leaves, evoking the harsh yet harmonious life of prehistoric times. In rock crevices, the sound of water dripping formed tiny pools reflecting the soft morning light struggling through the mist. They saw shells and smooth stones in the shallow river, perhaps remnants of food or tools used by earlier humans. curiosity and attentiveness became constant companions, for in this world, seemingly trivial objects could hide untold secrets. Occasionally, they discovered small animal bones signaling successful hunts, or large footprints that puzzled them as they did not match known animals today. Hunters adjusted their steps, balancing fear and exploration, aware that every corner of the valley held invisible yet powerful history. In that silence, they imagined prehistoric humans walking the same paths thousands of years earlier, hunting, celebrating, or confronting their fears in long, dark nights. They touched cold, damp stones, sensing nature's rhythm and the invisible traces of time. As if the earth spoke through subtle sounds, scents, and textures. Some hunters knelt to study the soil, reading patterns and tracks that might indicate fruit trees, water sources, or animal nests that could become meals. The atmosphere was so quiet that every breath was audible, as if nature waited for them to comprehend the hidden secrets among mist, rocks, and water. Soft light began revealing shadows of trees and stones, highlighting textures previously unseen, letting their imagination reconstruct forgotten prehistoric life from rituals to survival struggles. As they ventured further, faint forest sounds became more vivid, yet still calming, offering the feeling that, although this world seemed unfamiliar, they were connected to the same cycle of life that had existed since the first humans set foot on Earth. They learned to interpret nature's signs, from moss patterns to water flow direction, knowing that every detail carried stories awaiting discovery. Secrets only grasped by the patient and observant. In that valley, tranquility blended with curiosity, creating an experience where history and imagination met, letting the mind drift to a lost world, yet alive in every step and breeze. On the other side of the valley, a winding river displayed a calm surface, reflecting the gray sky as the first light of dawn faded, while the shadows of tall trees stretched across the water. The hunters moved slowly, adjusting their steps to the sound of flowing water and the rustle of leaves stirred by the wind. Every step was an observation, every movement deliberate, for they knew danger could appear from anywhere. From hidden beasts to slippery and treacherous terrain. Large stones scattered along the riverbank stood like silent witnesses of countless ages, covered with thick moss and fungi, indicating long-lasting moisture and quiet permanence. Among these rocks, hunters discovered remnants of burned wood, ashes from small fires perhaps lit by earlier humans, leaving questions about who had made them, why, and whether they were for ritual, cooking, or protection. The scent of wet earth and decaying leaves filled the air, evoking an odd nostalgia as if they could feel traces of long-lost life. They bent down to examine footprints in the damp soil, not only animal tracks, but also traces of ancient humans scattered along the river, guiding them to understand travel patterns and survival strategies. On some stones, faint carvings appeared, possibly symbols or messages, shapes resembling animals or objects, yet their interpretation remained a mystery. The wind carried the scent of fresh water, soil, and sometimes distant decay, reinforcing awareness of the life and death cycles surrounding them. They paused to listen to the gentle sounds of the forest, from water splashing on rocks to the calls of lingering ancient birds, creating a natural symphony that was calming and stimulating to the imagination. Along the riverbank, green moss-covered stones, and some stones appeared different in color, perhaps due to minerals or human interaction, marking territories or serving as tools. They noticed small holes in the ground that could be nests for insects or small mammals, signs of a complex and interconnected ecosystem. The hunters observed every detail with patience and precision, understanding that nature held answers and clues for those willing to read subtle signals. Their eyes followed small changes in water direction or the shape of broken branches, as these might indicate moving animals or safe crossing points. Along the journey, they imagined prehistoric life inhabiting this valley, hunting with stone spears, crafting tools from bone and wood, and witnessing nights full of fear and beauty. The atmosphere was so quiet that nearly every sound became tangible, filling them with awe for the relentless passage of time, leaving traces that were faint but indelible. They discovered some stones, seemingly polished by ancient hands, perhaps tools not yet fully degraded by time, hinting at lost habits and skills that could still be felt. Sunlight began piercing the thin mist, reflecting soft colors on the water's surface, creating a scene where reality and imagination intertwined and past met present visually and emotionally. They sat briefly on a large stone, feeling the coolness of the valley and listening to the ever-moving sounds of nature, realizing that although ancient humans had long vanished, their interactions with the environment left energy and stories perceptible to those present. Vigilance and curiosity became one, as they understood the valley was not merely a physical space, but also a temporal one, storing layers of history waiting to be unraveled. Tiny traces like scattered bones, stone fragments, and soil patterns formed a complex network of information, comprehensible only through deep attention and patience, allowing the mind to construct narratives and connections between the seen and the unseen. They continued along the faint path, connecting points possibly used by prehistoric humans for hunting, resting, or performing rituals. Each step was meditation, blending scientific meticulousness with aesthetic admiration for an environment rich in signs and symbols thousands of years old. The valley remained quiet and mysterious, yet gave a sense of safety to those who understood nature as rhythm and could move respectfully. They felt a subtle connection between themselves and past inhabitants through every sound, scent, and texture touched by their feet, creating a profound experience, combining direct observation and imaginative journey into the past. Along the winding edges of the valley, thin mist began creeping among the pine and fir trunks, cloaking the damp ground with a mysterious veil, as if hiding secrets long kept. Every step of the hunters became deliberate, as if aware that their presence in this space was not merely a physical journey, but a temporal one, connecting the present with traces of the past. Wet grass clung to their skin, and the scent of dew-soaked earth heightened awareness of life cycles that continued endlessly. Among the bushes, the rustling of small animals running could be heard. Perhaps mice or primitive mammals adapted to the harsh environment. Some rocks emerging from the soil appeared to have natural patterns, but upon closer inspection, faint carvings or scratches could be seen, possibly marks from rituals or symbols used by prehistoric humans to mark territory or tell stories. The hunters paused briefly, observing the light piercing through tree gaps. The mist dancing over the ground, creating a scene that felt suspended between reality and imagination. They imagined prehistoric humans walking the same path thousands of years ago, carrying spears and stone tools, hunting or foraging, perhaps pausing at the same spots to light fires or perform rituals now lost to understanding. In the valley's silence, the dripping of water from leaves, birdsong at dawn, and the whisper of wind through treetops merged into a natural symphony, soothing yet stirring curiosity. They realized that every stone, every tree trunk, every mark on the ground could hold information invisible to ordinary eyes, requiring patience and deep attention to read. By a small flowing stream, they discovered remnants of bark, perhaps remnants of tools or equipment left by prehistoric humans, reminding them that daily life left subtle yet tangible traces. Some stones appeared cracked with distinct patterns, possibly due to human activity or natural pressure over millennia, providing clues about how humans lived and interacted with their environment. The hunters studied these patterns carefully, letting their imagination construct narratives about how prehistoric people used this environment as a source of life, shelter, and spiritual arena. The scent of wet earth mixed with moss and decaying wood, evoking sensations reminding them that each step was traversing complex, hidden layers of history. They imagined conversations of prehistoric humans here, whispered words, laughter, sounds of struck tools, and footsteps chasing prey, all forming a picture of life lost, yet still perceptible through traces and residual energy. The gentle wind carried faint sounds, as if whispering stories from extinct times, evoking subtle awe and curiosity. Sunlight piercing the mist created soft lines on the ground, seemingly highlighting paths traveled by generations before them, providing a sense of continuity between past and present. In some areas, the ground appeared undulating, remnants of mounds possibly once used as dwellings or structures by prehistoric people, leaving unresolved mysteries. The hunters felt the depth of time in this valley, realizing that every element of nature, every material remnant they found, was part of a larger story about adaptation, resilience, and human interaction with a vast, challenging world. They continued carefully, observing every change in the soil, air, and light, knowing that every detail could be a key to understanding the hidden past behind mist and shadows. This journey was not only physical, but also spiritual and intellectual, uniting careful observation with a vivid imagination, allowing their minds to fill gaps with possibilities and untold narratives. Each second in the valley reinforced awareness that the world of prehistoric humans was far more complex and rich than imagined, and that every trace, broken stone, and stain of earth was part of a code waiting to be read. They allowed themselves to immerse fully in the experience, enjoying the tranquility alongside mystery, sensing a subtle connection between present and unbroken past, constructing a narrative that was both observational and imaginative, where nature and history converged in a calm rhythm. In the midst of the valley that gradually opened into a small meadow, sunlight began piercing the mist, highlighting dew droplets on leaves and grasses, creating a subtle sparkle like tiny gems. The soft sound of footsteps became more distinct on the wet ground, while the breeze carried the scent of wildflowers growing naturally, mingling with the smell of earth and damp wood, producing a sensation that was soothing yet deeply stimulating curiosity. At the edge of the meadow, several large stones appeared arranged in an irregular circle, yet with a deliberate impression, as if once used as a meeting point or altar for certain rituals. The hunters observed carefully, realizing that this pattern could be a relic of prehistoric humans who used stones as symbolic communication or to mark seasons, directions, or significant events in their lives. They imagined groups of prehistoric humans standing in this stone circle, forming lines, chanting mantras, or whispering prayers, or even dancing in rhythm with nature that only they understood, letting their bodies and souls interact with the larger and mysterious world. Between the stones, traces in the soil resembling footprints could be seen, possibly left by long-gone generations, giving the impression that every step they observed was part of a broader narrative about life, movement, and human interaction with nature. The wind carried faint, distant sounds, perhaps from snapping branches or small animals moving in the bushes, adding layers of realism to the shadowy past they imagined. In some areas, moss clung thickly to the stones, suggesting that these rocks had long remained in place, silently witnessing weather changes, animal migrations, and successive human activities. The hunters watched calmly, attempting to read these signs as a nonverbal historical record, like the language of nature, guiding them to understand prehistoric life more intuitively than intellectually. In the quiet, damp meadow, they realized that every scent, texture, and shift in light and shadow held a story, and that prehistoric life was not recorded only in artifacts or bones, but also in the way nature preserved memory through subtle yet consistent patterns and traces. They imagined a small fire lit in the center of the stone circle, smoke rising slowly into the morning sky, casting an orangish red hue on the thinning mist, creating a magical atmosphere, blending reality and imagination seamlessly. Birds beginning to chirp added a temporal rhythm, as if nature marked the morning with its own narrative, distinct yet aligned with life that existed thousands of years ago. As they stepped further into the meadow, small mounds emerged, possibly remnants of hearths or temporary structures used by prehistoric humans, sparking imagination about social interactions, task distribution, and new lost rituals. They pictured prehistoric men and women exchanging food, children learning to walk and explore, and elders overseeing daily activities, all connected to nature and time through seemingly simple yet meaningful actions. The sunlight piercing the mist also highlighted the tracks of large animals in the damp soil, possibly mammoths or prehistoric deer, providing context for the hunters about the critical human-animal relationship for survival. Every detail, from the size of tracks to movement directions, became material for the imagination to build a narrative blending facts and possibilities, creating a vivid yet calm observational picture. The faint smell of burning wood reached them from afar, possibly remnants of fires used for cooking or warmth, giving the impression that prehistoric life was not just about survival, but also about adaptation, creativity, and interaction with ever-changing natural elements. They felt a gentle calm, as the imaginative narrative and realistic observation merged, creating an almost meditative experience where historical mystery and natural beauty walked hand in hand. In this awareness, every step, glance, and breath became part of a larger journey, connecting them to lost times that felt close through traces, artifacts, and residual energy. They allowed themselves to fully immerse in this experience, letting imagination fill narrative gaps left by history, while careful observation maintained connection to reality, producing a balance between curiosity and deep tranquility. The quiet morning atmosphere, fading misty light, moist, earthy scent, and varied soil textures became narrative elements that animated their experience, creating an intuitive understanding of prehistoric life without the need for words or written documentation. They realized that the world of prehistoric humans was full of rituals, journeys, interactions, and courage recorded in subtle yet enduring traces, and that they, as modern observers, were fortunate to traverse these paths with full awareness, respect, and immersive calm. On the other side of the valley, a small river flowed slowly, the water clear yet cold, reflecting the morning light with a silvery luster that moved along the stream. Along the riverbank, wet grass and slippery rocks add a natural and slightly dangerous impression, so every step must be carefully observed. At some point, ancient human footprints were left in the soft mud, some in a near-perfect position, as if they were pausing for a moment, reflecting on the direction or state of nature. This river may be a source of life and a challenge for them, as water provides drinking, fish beds, and elements for rituals, but also a threat from wild animals or sudden currents. Modern hunters who observe the river let their imaginations explore the past, imagining ancient humans who came to the riverbank to fetch water, clean hunting equipment, or perform prayers and offerings of now unknown meaning. They imagined the splash of water falling onto the rock, a soothing yet mysterious ripple sound, as if the water held the whispers of a long-lost generation. On the riverbank, some prominent stones appeared to be arranged as deliberately laid out, perhaps former seating or temporary structures used for certain activities. The surrounding trees provide a soft shadow, the leaves rubbing against each other, producing an almost whisper-like sound, adding to the atmospheric layer that makes observation more profound and reflective. The smell of wet soil, moss, and decaying leaves mixed with the scent of cold water, creating a multi-sensory sensation that leads the mind to associate each element with ancient life. They imagined a night by the river when a small bonfire was lit, shadows dancing on the stone, and the sound of the quiet river, mixed with the sounds of prayer or the singing of ancient humans, forming a rhythm in harmony with nature. Every movement of water, gurgling and splashing, seemed like a secret language that gave clues about rituals, migrations, or social interactions that can now only be imagined. Modern hunters add imaginative details, ancient children playing on the banks, adults speaking in low voices, women preparing food or tools, and elders watching, creating a shadow of life that feels real yet remains mysterious. They realized that rivers were not just physical paths, but also metaphors of ancient human journeys. Life that moved, changed, yet still formed patterns left on Earth in natural memories and in observable traces. The morning light that illuminates the water makes the ripples look more alive. The shadows of the trees that stick to the surface create a contrast between light and dark, forming a visual game that gives depth to the imaginative narrative. The gentle wind gave rise to the constant sounds of nature. The sound of broken branches, birds chirping, and streams of water, all part of a wordless narrative that blends with imagination. In a mindful silence, they understood that every detail of this river was an unwritten record of natural history, allowing imagination to interpret ancient life in an observational and poetic way. Smells, sounds, textures, and light become languages that allow them to connect the present with the past, eliciting a sense of wonder and curiosity without the need for concrete evidence. The river became a symbol of the survival, adaptation, and relationship of ancient humans with nature, while inviting reflection on how modern human life can learn from the balance and sensitivity to nature that their ancestors possessed. They allow themselves to sink into this sensation, combining realistic observation and poetic imagination, creating a profound and calming experience, almost like a meditation tied to reality and uncertain history. With each breath taken by the riverbank, they felt a connection to ancient life, understanding that even though the generation had been lost, their traces were still there, waiting to be observed, imagined, and honored by those who came later. This river, with its slow-moving water, rocks, and tracks, becomes a metaphor for flowing time, connecting past, present, and future possibilities in a contemplative stream that brings calm and curiosity that continues to live. Behind the hillside, there is a large open area surrounded by towering trees and dense bushes, creating a kind of natural arena where ancient human activity can be imaginatively observed. In the middle of this open area, there are traces of a bonfire that is now only a circle of charcoal and charred stones, giving clues that this place was once the center of social life and ritual. The long smell of smoke blended with the scent of earth and dead leaves stirred the imagination of the nights when the fire was burning. Ancient people gathered, spoke in low voices, sang songs, or whispered prayers that were now unheard. The stones around the fire appeared to be deliberately arranged, perhaps used as chairs or support for cooking utensils, adding a layer of mystery about their daily lives. At some point, the neatly cut bones of animals demonstrate systematic hunting and meat processing techniques, but also raise questions about ritual sacrifices or unknown symbolism. The wind that blew through the crevices of the trees brought the subtle sounds of nature, like the sigh of the earth merging with the shadows and light of fire, creating a calm yet mysterious rhythm. They imagined children playing by the fire, laughing or running among the shadows of trees, while adults prepare food, check traps, or sculpt tools from stones and bones. It is also possible that village elders sit further away, lead serious conversations, give advice, or pass on legends passed down from previous generations. Every movement and position of objects in this open area is interpreted with deep imagination. How stones are chosen, how bones are arranged, how the rest of the fire becomes an indicator of time and season, all become clues taken by modern observers to understand the lost ancient life. The morning light that penetrated the tree crevices highlighted layers of soil, leaves, and rocks, forming shadows that changed as the sun moved, as if whispering the secret of time that had passed. The sounds of birds, small animals, and insects add an auditory dimension that makes observations more alive, as if nature itself were a silent witness to the activity that took place centuries ago. Hunters or observers who imagine this scene can feel physical sensations. The cold of the ground on the feet, the humidity of the air, the faint smell of smoke, and the rustling of leaves all bring about multisensory experiences that strengthen the relationship between the present and the past. At certain corners, the moss-covered rocks looked like altars or ritual focal points, where ancient people might place valuable objects or offerings, adding to the layer of unsolved mystery. The shadows and light that interact in this place create a gentle, dramatic effect, giving the impression that each object has a story and role in the life of ancient societies. They imagined also low voices, sparks, falling pieces of wood, tapped bones, and words spoken with respect or fear, all blending into a symphony that could only be imagined, no longer heard in the real world. Each visual, textured, and auditory element becomes part of a poetic narrative, allowing the observer to fill historical gaps with calm and reflective imagination. The wind moving through the bushes and trees creates shadow movements that change the view from minute to minute, making this area feel alive and dynamic, even though ancient humans have long since left. Activities observed or imagined in this area include hunting, cooking, carving tools, simple rituals, and social interaction, all adding to the details that make the narrative richer and one with nature. They imagined a night when the bonfire was burning, shadows dancing on the faces of ancient humans, and the sounds of nature blended with song or prayer, creating an atmosphere that was almost magical, yet still observationally realistic. This whole experience invites modern observers to feel connected to ancient humans, understand their patterns of life, and enjoy curiosity that frees the imagination without having to have certainty. This open area, with its rocks, bones, fire, and surroundings, becomes the focal point of narratives connecting the past, nature, and imagination, offering a calming, reflective, and curious experience. As the sun began to lean west, golden light spread slowly over the ground, highlighting the curves of the rock, the sticking roots of the tree, and the layers of moss stuck to the rocks. Long shadows form among the ruins of ancient settlements, giving the impression of depth of time and adding a subtle but soothing impression of mystery. In certain corners, scattered stone tools are visible, some still intact, some broken, raising questions about who used them for what purpose, and how their manufacturing and use techniques have evolved over generations. The imagination of observers imagines ancient human hands pressing, tapping, and sculpting stones as useful tools for hunting, cutting meat, or preparing fuel for a campfire. The smell of wet soil, decaying leaves, and smoke from the newly extinguished campfire created a complex scent, connecting the sense of smell with the visualization of past activities. The wind that blows slowly moves the leaves and grass, causing a soft sound that resembles a whisper, as if nature itself became a mediator that conveyed a story that was never written. Among the trees, observers imagine animals that coexisted with ancient humans, from small birds to large mammals, some as prey some as natural watchdogs that helped mark the rhythm of daily life. Footprints on moist soil, animal footprints, and lines on rocks that look like scratch marks become a vague but curious record. As if each trace holds secrets about the lost movements, interactions, and experiences of ancient humans. The twilight atmosphere adds intensity to the shadows, creating a space where imagination can freely play between reality and possibility, without having to look for definitive answers. They imagined the sound of a rustling fire as the last wood-burned sparks that leaped into the air, and ancient humans sitting around a circle of rocks, sharing stories, staring at stars that began to appear in the twilight sky, forming a quiet yet meaningful rhythm of life. The plants and shrubs surrounding this area seem to hide something, adding to the mystery layer. Perhaps children are playing behind it. Perhaps ancient humans kept valuable objects or tools hidden from view. The aroma of food cooked on the remaining fire filled the air, although only imaginable, bringing the sense of fullness, warmth, and security that ancient humans had felt at that time. Every element of the environment, from light, shadow, sound, scent, to the texture of soil and stone, interacts to form a multi-sensory experience that connects modern observers with ancient life. The shadows of trees moving in the direction of the wind and sun create a dynamic visual effect, giving the impression that this area is still alive even though ancient humans have long since left. In the silence and silence of dusk, observers can sense the slow rhythm of time, emphasizing the sustainability of nature, life, and stories left in the form of artifacts and traces of ancient human activity. They envision simple social interactions, food division, conversations with low intonation, teaching techniques of hunting or caring for tools, and small rituals that may be performed to maintain balance with nature and the spirits they believe in. Every movement, sound, and smell becomes a soothing point of connection, guiding the observer's mind into a flat but alluring narrative flow, reflecting the experience of ancient humans without having to demand certainty. This dusk gives a gentle, melancholic impression where stories of the past and modern imagination meet, forming a calming, reflective space, eliciting curiosity and inviting to enjoy a mysterious silence. This area, with all its traces, is a stage for layered historical shadows where observers can explore the life mystery and beauty hidden in the daily activities of ancient humans, while still feeling calm and comfort in the process of reflection. Night began to creep slowly, bringing a thin mist that enveloped the slopes and valleys around the ancient settlement area, creating a quiet and mysterious yet calming atmosphere. This atmosphere invites the observer to let the mind drift, imagining sounds that might have been heard on the night before, thousands of years ago. From nocturnal animals moving in the forest to the sounds of ancient humans whispering or laughing at small things around the fireplace. The soft moonlight illuminated the surface of the rock and the sparkling water, displaying a slowly changing pattern of shadows, as if guiding the eyes and mind into a calm and flat narrative groove. In the midst of fog, the tracks and footprints of humans and animals appear faint but real, as if waiting to be traced, eliciting curiosity and imagination of observers to go down the long journey that has been passed without knowing the end. Observers imagine ancient humans walking slowly with hunting results, lighting small bonfires to give warmth, and whispering to each other about stories, prophecies, or everyday events, forming a simple but meaningful rhythm of life. The scent of wet soil, burning wood, and decaying leaves fill the night air, adding a deep sensory layer, as if bringing the observer into the same multisensorial experience as the ancient humans who lived here. Every sound of fog swept away by the wind, the rustling of leaves, or the rustling of animals in the distance brings out a faint but palpable shadow of life, emphasizing that history is not just about facts, but also experiences that can be felt and imagined on the banks of rivers or small lakes. The shadows of the sparkling water reflect the light of stars, presenting a sense of calmness and mystery, as if nature itself became a silent witness to unwritten stories. Observers imagine ancient humans sitting by the water, washing or preparing food, staring at the sky and thinking about undocumented things, connecting their lives to the rhythms of nature. In darkness, every movement and sound becomes a symbol of life, survival, and connection with the surrounding environment that is essential to their survival. This silent night atmosphere brings awareness about the limitations of our knowledge, that many things remain hidden, but bring beauty in uncertainty itself. The shadows of trees moving slowly in the moonlight, the passing animals, and the sound of the wind blowing gently create a rhythmic effect that calms the mind, prompting the observer to let the story flow without interruption. The scent of earth, water, and wood burning triggers subtle sensory memories, allowing observers to imaginatively sense the presence of ancient humans. Every small detail, from stone scratches to scattered bone fragments, serves as a link between the past and the present, guiding the observer through a soft, flat, and reflective narrative. Tonight demands no answers, but rather invites quiet. Curiosity allows imagination to develop with a calming, slow rhythm, presents a gentle sense of melancholy, and lets mystery remain hanging in the air, as if waiting to be discovered by anyone willing to reflect and pay close attention. In this silent atmosphere, observers can imagine the daily life of ancient humans, their relationship with nature, and the simple rituals they may have performed, without haste and without interruption, allowing each element to be part of a deep and calming meditation experience. Thin hanging night fog begins to blanket the cliffs and valleys, bringing a mysterious yet soothing feel that entices the observer to let eyes and minds explore the shadows of the past. Between the trees and bushes, the sound of night animals was faint. From the creaking of crickets to the footsteps of animals that walked slowly, forming a natural rhythm that was calm but full of life. Observers imagine ancient humans sitting on the edge of a campfire, holding sharp stones to skin the meat of the hunt, whispering to each other about everyday experiences or stories that have never been documented. The scent of burning wood, mixed with moist soil and wet leaves, brought a soothing sensation, as if every observer's senses were connected to the ancient environment. The rough, icy rock surface on the riverbank reflects the moonlight, creating a pattern of shadows that slowly move, adding a sense of mystery as well as a gentle aesthetic. Every step of ancient humans, every movement of animals, and the sounds of nature became symbols of life and a close relationship with nature. teaching observers that their survival depended on skill, intuition, and harmony with the environment. Behind the fog, ancient human trails and footprints are faint, ignorant of the long journey they took from searching for food to moving places, without knowing what they would encounter next. Observers imagine simple rituals performed by ancient humans, from lighting small fires, arranging stones as signs, to putting supplies in important objects. As if each action had a veiled meaning that was only understood by themselves. The sparkling water shadows in a small river or lake create a calming reflection of light, presenting a deep sense of calm and mystery that provokes curiosity. The soft sound of wind, rubbing leaves, and the rustling of fog on the ground become the rhythm of nature that calms the mind, facilitating imaginative meditation that allows the observer to feel ancient life subtly. Every detail, from scratches on rocks, scattered bone fragments, to the smoldering bonfire marks, serves as a reminder of time travel and the existence of hidden yet real ancient humans through the traces. Tonight teaches the observer to accept uncertainty, enjoy the beauty of mystery, and let the imagination develop slowly, quietly, without rushing to find answers. In this silence, observers are taken to reflect on ancient humans' relationship with nature, the rhythm of their lives, and the courage to face darkness, hunger, and invisible threats. Every element in this ancient night, from scents, sounds, to shadows, blends into a deep, multisensory experience, inviting the observer to dissolve into a flat, quiet rhythm. The atmosphere presented is not only about history, but also about awareness of the connection between humans, nature, and time, allowing the observer to feel close to the past while remaining in the comfort of a quiet night. All this creates a soft sense of melancholy, letting the mystery hang and inviting reflection, building a long and calming experience as if it were a bridge between the ancient world and the observer in the present. In a valley far from modern light, traces of ancient humans have carved an unheard story left behind in soil and rocks that have aged for thousands of years. Every curve of the ground, every crack of the stone, bears silent witness to daily activities. From hunting to lighting fires, from concocting plants to arranging simple tools from stone and bone. The sounds of nature that surround the valley, from the rustling of small river waters to the swish of wind that sweeps the dry leaves, form a soothing yet mysterious symphony, as if this ancient world still lives in every gust of wind and ripple of water. Among the trees, the shadows of ancient humans are faint, moving slowly for food, checking traps, or preparing fuel for campfires. A routine activity that has a profound meaning for their survival. Every stone scattered on the ground, every bone lying, holds a hidden message that can only be interpreted through imagination. Perhaps it is a provision for the spirits of ancestors, perhaps also a warning sign for the next one. The smell of moist soil mixed with the burning wood smoke slowly became a distinctive scent, reminding observers of the warmth of the fire that provided comfort and protection. Moonlight penetrates the crevices of trees, reflecting on the surface of water and rocks, creating faint reflections that add a mysterious and soothing feel. In that shadow, the observer can imagine a simple, ancient human conversation between hunger, fear, and curiosity, all conveyed by gestures, or sounds that are almost inaudible, but full of meaning. The paths they travel on seem random to modern eyes, but to them, each step has a purpose, from finding food to avoiding danger, and from marking territory to preparing night rituals. The night atmosphere in this valley seems to freeze time, forcing the observer to stop and feel a flat but rich rhythm of detail, from the sounds of nature's scents to the texture of soil and rocks under the feet. In the distance, the sound of night animals, perhaps wolves or extinct animals, became part of ancient human life, reminding us that the balance between humans and nature is always fragile and requires vigilance. Every bonfire that burns in the midst of darkness brings life and hope, while also being a symbol of ancient man's courage to face a long and dangerous night. Footprints left in wet or muddy soil, though vague, become unwritten documentation of life, storing information about group size, travel patterns, and possible interactions with other groups or predators. In the silence of the night, observers can feel a subtle but constant tension. Where ancient humans lived with a full awareness of threats that were not always visible but always present, from wild animals to sudden changes in weather. All these details come together in a slow and quiet narrative, inviting the observer to let imagination flow. To imagine a life full of effort but simple, full of fear but also a sense of mutual care. The flat rhythms of natural sounds, the scent of earth and wood, and the slowly moving shadows form a deep, multisensorial experience, facilitating a calm yet thorough observation. Every element, from stone, wood, bone, to earth and water, seems to have its own story, giving context and depth to ancient life that can only be felt through patient and attentive imagination. The whole experience creates a gentle, melancholic sensation, letting the mystery hang, and invites long reflections on the relationship between man, nature, and time that never really solves. In the same valley, as morning greeted slowly with sunlight that penetrated the thin fog, ancient human life began to move with a clearer rhythm. The dew dripped from the leaves, soaking the soil and tools left overnight, while the scent of wet soil mixed with the smoke from the campfire that had not been completely extinguished. Daily activities began again, from checking animal traps set on the edge of the forest, concocting plants known as medicine or food, to sharpening stones into sharper tools for hunting or cooking purposes. The careful eye of the observer can see barely visible details, such as scratches on the surface of the stone, that indicate ancient humans' efforts to adjust the tool with their hands, or small footprints that may belong to a child who follows adults with curiosity. The shadows of long trees sweep the ground, adding contrast to every movement that occurs. And the morning breeze brings the sounds of birds and insects that form a calm yet complex natural symphony. In a small flowing river, observers can imagine ancient humans washing tools or measuring water for drinking, their slow and attentive movements showing awareness of the importance of every action. Every object scattered around, from animal bones to stone fragments, becomes part of an unwritten narrative, showing the interaction between humans and nature, between needs and skills, between survival and rituals that may be performed in honor of ancestors or spirits of nature. In an observational perspective, every little detail, from the way they light a fire to the way they prepare food, gives a picture of life that seems simple but has an unspeakable depth and complexity. The shadow of ancient humans moving between trees or around a newly lit campfire creates a sense of mystery and comfort, as if the observer is part of this peaceful but enigmatic world. The sound of flowing water, the rustling of leaves, and the scent of burning wood blend together, forming a sensory experience that is both indulgent and soothing, leaving the observer immersed in the imagination of ancient life. That is, colorful, yet remains flat in its narrative rhythm. Every activity, even as simple as collecting fruit or cutting the meat of hunted animals, has its own layer of meaning, both for survival and for forming a group identity, an unwritten legacy that affects the next generation. In the silence of the valley, the observer can feel feelings that are difficult to express with words. A blend of admiration, calm, and a little melancholy, because he realizes that all this is just a shadow of the past that can now only be felt through imagination. This slow, detailed, and connected rhythm of life creates a comfortable sensation, but also arouses curiosity, challenging the observer to keep asking about the mystery hidden behind every stone, every shadow, and every sound in this ancient valley. This quiet yet detailed morning atmosphere prepares the observer to follow the long journey of ancient humans. From everyday life to night rituals full of symbolism and unsolved mystery, all elements of nature and man come together to form a slow, flat, and imaginative narrative, allowing the viewer to dissolve in curiosity but still feel comfortable, as if watching a peaceful yet enigmatic ancient world. As dusk began to creep over the horizon, the sky turned a reddish-orange color that slowly faded into a dark blue, marking the end of daytime activities and the beginning of a quiet yet mysterious night rhythm. Among the towering trees, the shadow of ancient humans grew and moved slowly, as if one with the surrounding nature, following a pattern only understood by those who live in the rhythm of the universe. The bonfire that had been lit since the afternoon gave a warm glow, revealing facial forms focused on each other's activities. Some prepared food for the hunt, while others examined weapons or spoke through subtle gestures, gestures passed down from generation to generation without written words. The aroma of the roasted meat, the mixture of wet soil and wood smoke, creates a sensation-rich atmosphere, signaling that night brings both the need and the ritual that must be performed for survival. In imaginative observation, children who follow adults appear to meticulously imitate movements, learn from actions and expressions, absorb unwritten but vital knowledge, form an early understanding of a harsh yet orderly world. Around the fire, pre-prepared stone and bone tools reflect a dim light, displaying shapes that appear like symbols of unknown intent, but for modern observers give the impression of hidden rituals. The sound of night animals began to be heard, from the rustling of leaves moving in the wind to the sound of small animals foraging, providing an additional rhythm that adds depth to the observational experience. Shadows of fire danced on the faces of ancient humans, showing calmness and alertness, as night brought risks from predators who might approach, or even from members of the group who were lost or injured. Every movement, every preparation, even the way they put things around the fire, has a double meaning. protecting oneself and maintaining unwritten traditions, yet feels essential to the survival of the group. In the imagination of the observer, there seems to be a deep concentration and focus, although daily activities seem simple, but full of caution, indicating the ability of ancient humans to read natural signs and anticipate dangers that may arise. Slowly, seemingly trivial rituals such as breaking wood, sharpening an arrowhead, or arranging bones into part of a larger story create harmony between humans and the surrounding environment, as if there is a hidden but real collective consciousness. The twilight lights that penetrate the crevices of the trees create patterns of light and shadow that look like living paintings, adding a poetic impression, but remaining flat, observational, and calming to the viewer. As the observation continues, the observer can feel a deep attachment between ancient humans and the world around them. Every sound, scent, and movement becomes part of a complex yet natural-looking ecosystem. Even as night grew darker, ancient human interactions remained regular. From examining hunting tools to observing the surrounding environment, affirming their ability to live in harmony with nature while maintaining unwritten security and trust. Tonight's activities, while simple, provide a sense of continuity and security, as if setting the foundation for deeper rituals to be performed in the future, while keeping the mystery that keeps the audience curious yet comfortable. These details form a slow, poetic, and observational narrative rhythm, allowing the viewer to immerse himself in the atmosphere of the ancient night. Feel peace and tension implied, building an atmosphere consistent with the desired writing style. The night grew increasingly dense, and the sound of ancient forests became more dominant, enveloping the entire area with a flat but alluring natural harmony. The night breeze carried the scent of wet soil and moist leaves, creating a soothing sensation while reinforcing the sense of solitude experienced by the ancient group of humans who lived around the bonfire. In the distance, there was the rustling of broken branches, the small sound of night animals moving for food, and the occasional howl of wolves or wild dogs that added a mysterious yet calm feel, as if reminding ancient humans that even though they were used to this environment, danger always lurked. Imaginative observations show that each member of the group has a clear role. Some remain near the fire to keep the flame alive. Others guard the perimeter with simple weapons while children sleep. Or learn from adult movements, imitate without words, instill an understanding of a hard but structured life. The swaying light of the flame cast long, multi-layered shadows, creating a visual illusion that seemed like other creatures moving in the trees or among the bushes, adding to the subtle element of mystery and tension. Hunting equipment made of stone, bone, and wood seemed scattered around the fire, ready for use at any time. Each object had its own story. Carefully honed stone fragments showed technical expertise inherited from previous generations. Neatly cut bones signified knowledge of animal anatomy, and wood coated with tree sap showed an understanding of the durability and flexibility of materials. In silence, the observer can feel the deep concentration of every action of ancient humans. Every movement, though seemingly simple, calculating, shows an awareness of risk and a desire to maintain their lives and traditions. In between these activities, subtle whispers, perhaps instructions or warnings, are heard only by those living in the culture, adding an undocumented but effective layer of communication. The aroma of food cooked at the campfire, a mixture of meat, natural spices, and wood smoke, provided comfort and a sense of security for the group, while signaling a ritual that was not only practical but also symbolic. Eating together around the fire strengthened social bonds and instilled a collective sense that was fundamental to survival. In imaginative observation, it appears that adults exchange glances, read facial expressions and gestures, maintain harmony and coordination in the face of an uncertain night. The moonlight that penetrates the tree crevice adds another dimension to the environment, revealing previously hidden topographic forms, leading the observer's eye to see patterns that may be safe passages or natural surveillance points. The calm that arises is not merely because of the absence of danger, but because of the discipline and rituals that are carried out. Each individual knows his limits and responsibilities, creating an atmosphere that, although full of mystery, feels safe and orderly. In the silence of the night, observers can interpret the slow but definite rhythms of breathing and motion of ancient humans, demonstrating their ability to live in harmony with nature while maintaining control over an environment that is not entirely predictable. Tonight's activities, though undocumented, form a poetic and calm narrative rhythm, preparing the audience to understand the deeper layers of mystery in the next paragraphs, while maintaining a consistent sense of comfort. All the details from human interaction to natural sounds and scents form a multi-sensory experience that allows viewers to immerse themselves in a secretive ancient world that remains acceptable with a sense of security and peace. In this way, the ancient night becomes more than just a setting. It becomes a present character, providing context, challenge, and harmony for the observational and imaginative observed life of ancient humans. From a higher observational point, it appears that ancient humans arranged their spaces with intuitive precision. The position of the fire, the bed of leaves and grass, and the location of hunting equipment formed a pattern that seemed random to modern eyes, but actually followed the logic of everyday life that was neatly arranged. The long shadows of the campfire dance on the ground, bouncing towards the walls of caves or large trees, as if telling unheard stories from previous generations, mysterious voices that can only be translated through instincts and repeated life experiences. In the distance, narrow paths are visible that are used to move game animals or carry water from rivers. These paths signify accurate geographical knowledge, even if not formally documented. Every small sound, from the swish of the wind to the rustling of leaves, became part of the environmental mapping that was done unconsciously by ancient humans, creating a full awareness of the risks and opportunities around them. Carefully stored hunting equipment such as spears and javelins showed a high level of technical precision. Neatly sharpened stone tips and carefully selected wood were not just physical tools, but also symbols of status and expertise, signifying who was the most experienced or most trusted in the group. The scent of smoke from the campfire mixed with the scent of wet earth and slowly burning leaves, forming an atmosphere reminiscent of rituals that were not only practical but also symbolic as a link between humans and the invisible realm. In this observation, complex social interactions are seen. Head nods, hand gestures, and eye gazes become nonverbal language that allows effective, wordless communication, maintaining harmony and regulating behavior in a hazard-prone environment. Children learn from imitation, carefully mimicking every adult movement, building an intuitive understanding of hunting techniques, safety, and unwritten group ethics. Occasionally, a short shout may be heard, a warning or signal to focus on a potential threat. This sound, although simple, indicates an efficient and adaptive coordination system for the environment. The moonlight that penetrates the crevices of trees gives an additional visual dimension. The shadows of trees, shrubs, and contours of the soil form patterns that helped ancient humans recognize terrain and safe paths, while providing a magical feel that adds calmness and alertness. The occasional movements of the night beasts cause curiosity and tension. They are followed by alert eyes, careful gestures, and sometimes accompanied by subtle hissing or warning sounds, forming a natural dialogue between humans and other creatures around them. The evening's activities showcase a balance between calm and alertness, between routine and improvisation, between physical and symbolic needs. All these elements flow together, forming a rich yet still observational narrative, preparing the audience for the next layer of mystery. Every detail from fire, shadow, sound, scent, to social interaction forms a complex yet harmonious mosaic of ancient life, providing an immersive experience that allows viewers to imagine a long-lost but real world through careful observation and gentle imagination. The rhythm of the night, which is repetitive and consistent, provides paradoxical comfort. While filled with uncertainty, the social structure and routine observed create a sense of security, forming a subtle emotional foundation for the viewer to dissolve in a calming yet mysterious ancient atmosphere. The ever-changing shadow of fire, the dynamic sounds of nature, and the distinctive scent of earth form a complete sensory experience, as if inviting the viewer to walk among ancient humans, feel their lives firsthand, and understand that every action, though simple, has a deep meaning, preparing the next layer of narrative that will further provoke curiosity. In between the nightlife of ancient humans, it appears that every object and space has a purpose and meaning, although to modern observers it remains largely mysterious. The stones placed around the campfire are not just heat breakers or pans, but also likely undocumented symbols of protection or ritual markers, forming patterns that can only be understood through the collective habits and memories of the group. Meanwhile, the leaves arranged as bed rests show attention to comfort and health, while reflecting an understanding of the nature of organic matter available in the surrounding environment, how certain leaves retain heat, moisture, or even insects. Each detail of this layout provides insight into the level of ecological and technical knowledge possessed, as if ancient humans had an intuitive catalog of natural properties that were not written but understood through experience and observation. The smell of wet earth, the scent of fire smoke, and the fragrance of burning leaves slowly form a rich sensory landscape, reinforcing the ritualistic and practical impression of each activity. Children who play or imitate adult movements add a soft yet lesson-filled dimension to life. They learn imitatively, build survival skills while instilling social and cultural values without formal words. As the night drew to a close, the sounds of nature, the rustling of leaves, the swish of the wind, the footsteps of small animals became part of the natural music that guided the activities of ancient humans, showing that they lived in harmony with the environment, absorbing natural signals that were essential for safety and navigation. Sometimes a brief warning or subtle cry from one of the group members is heard, signaling sensitivity to potential threats and the ability to communicate efficiently without disturbing the balance of the night. The narrow paths connecting water points, hunting grounds, and residences demonstrate precise geographical knowledge. While undocumented, these paths reflect a deep understanding of terrain, distance, and security, forming a complex yet natural network that supports everyday life. The moonlight that penetrates the tree crevices forms shadows that add visual dimension, helping ancient humans identify the contours of the land, the location of resources, and the existence of other creatures, while creating a magical feel that combines alertness and tranquility. Every movement of ancient humans, from sharpening stones to arranging equipment, reflects a balance between practical and symbolic needs, between physical life and an intuitive understanding of the world. Social interaction observed through hand movements, eye gazes, and body language shows a complex and effective nonverbal communication system, maintaining group harmony while ensuring safety and efficiency. The ongoing rhythm of the night, with its combination of practical activity, environmental observation, and social interaction, creates a stable and calming pattern, giving the viewer a sense of comfort, while opening up space for deeper mysteries. Every detail, from smells, sounds, light, to human interactions, forms a rich and complex mosaic of ancient experiences, allowing viewers to imagine long-lost lives with a subtle and soothing depth, as if walking between the shadows and sounds left of an extinct world, preparing them for the next increasingly compelling layer of narrative. The atmosphere created between the silence of the night, the rhythm of life, and the dynamic element of nature builds a deep awareness of human relationships with the environment, a lesson on resilience, adaptation, and harmony that remains relevant even though the context has changed, blending with calm and observational poetic nuances. Behind all seemingly simple and natural activities, hidden layers of meaning are elusive without a complete cultural context. Ancient humans not only acted to meet basic needs, but also implemented rituals and symbols that expressed group identity, respect for nature, and unwritten beliefs about life and death. Traces of objects left on the ground or between rocks, such as shell fragments, neatly arranged animal bones, or pieces of stone sharpened with precision, are not just tools and food scraps. They also most likely serve as warning signs, markers of important events, or a medium of nonverbal communication with the next generation. This expansion of understanding opened up insights into the often underrated social complexity, suggesting that the structure of ancient human groups may have had a smooth hierarchy division of tasks and surveillance system reflected in the way they organized space and monitored interactions between members. In the shadow of a slowly moving bonfire, it is conceivable that the sounds heard, the knocking of stones, the scraping of wood, or the soft whispering are not merely for entertainment or practical work, but also a means to internalize values and strengthen group cohesion, instilling discipline and a sense of responsibility from an early age. The burned leaf smoke rising into the night sky and the distinctive scent of burning wood may have ritual meaning, as a symbol of sacrifice or prayer to an unknown power, as well as a reminder of their connection to the greater cycle of nature. When ancient humans walked across trails or across cold rivers, they displayed sensitivity to risk, strategic planning, and extraordinary environmental assessments, forming effective navigation patterns for survival in the wild world. Every seemingly random element, the stone structure, the wind direction, the sound of the night animal can actually be part of an intuitively utilized environmental information system, allowing them to read natural signs with amazing accuracy without stationary or modern technology. In moments of silence, when only the sound of wind and the rustling of leaves can be seen, how ancient humans developed deep observational capacity, studied animal behavior, recognized weather signs, and understood seasonal changes that affect their food, protection, and safety. Daily activities from lighting fires, sharpening stones, arranging food, to arranging beds from leaves form a harmonious and stable rhythm of life, as well as becoming practical and symbolic exercises that strengthen their understanding of the world and instill social discipline. Interaction between group members indicates complex, nonverbal communication. Using hand gestures, facial expressions, and body positions to send important messages without causing disturbance or attracting predators. The moonlight-shaped shadows between trees and rocks provide a visual dimension that helps orientation and strengthens emotional bonds, forming a magical impression that calms and adds mystery. Children who imitate adult movements or follow their footsteps learn about survival skills, social norms, and cultural values through effective imitation methods, asserting that informal education has become an integral part of group life. All these elements, right practices, social interactions, environmental understanding, and daily activities cohere into a rich and complex narrative, providing a deep picture of ancient life that was not only physical, but also symbolic, emotional, and spiritual. For modern audiences, imagining this world means immersing themselves in multi-sensory experiences, experiencing leaf textures, smoke scents, night sounds, and sensations of fear, as well as the warmth of community reflected in the natural rhythms of their lives. This narrative guides the audience to understand that even in simplicity seems complexity, and in the tranquility of the night there are systems, beliefs, and values that form the foundation of the survival of ancient humans. As the shadows of the flames dance on the ground, the soft sounds of the night, and seemingly simple yet meaningful interactions, the layers of the mystery of ancient life slowly unfold, giving the viewer a soft yet profound curiosity, while maintaining a calm rhythm that supports comfort and ready to fall asleep. As time moves slowly between ancient valleys and mountains, it is seen how the humans who lived in that era developed complex relationships with their environment, forming a continuous and structured lifestyle that seems simple. They understand the rhythm of the seasons, the movement of animals, and the different nature of the soil in each location, so that daily decisions from planting, hunting, to moving places are always guided by careful observation against nature. Every footprint on the damp ground, every gravel that was moved, even the sound caused by sparks, became part of the information system they used to assess risks and opportunities, creating an efficient and adaptive lifestyle. The shadows of trees under the moonlight and the sound of night animals are not only the background, but also the instruments that help them understand the environment, teaching young people to read natural signs and recognize dangers before threatening. Small rituals which may seem trivial to modern observers have deep meanings, such as placing stones in certain corners burning special, leaves, or carving marks on wood, all of which serve as time markers, spiritual commemorations, or reminders of important events in the group. Children learn through imitation, following adult movements in hunting, lighting fires, or gathering plants, building practical skills while instilling complex social values, including patience, alertness, and a sense of responsibility. In the silence of the night, there was a whisper of nature that seemed to tell them when to move, when to stay, and when to prepare for an invisible threat, forming a high sensitivity to detail and subtle changes around them. The sharpened stone tracks neatly arranged bones, and simple tools are not only evidence of physical activity, but also symbolic. Records that record group beliefs, experiences, and identities, so that each fragment has the potential to be an entry point to understanding their mentality and culture. The night atmosphere, filled with the scent of smoke, fire sounds, and insect buzz, adds a sensory dimension, creating an environment that teaches attention to detail and sensitivity to natural changes while forming a consistent rhythm of life. Every encounter with wild animals or the movement of clouds in the sky is studied and infused as a lesson, not just an instinctive experience, showing that the adaptive intelligence of ancient humans was not only physical, but also cognitive and emotional. As they walk between trees and rocks, observe animal footprints, hear night sounds, and feel the scent of wet soil, they build a holistic understanding of the world, combining sight, hearing, smell, and intuition in one unity of experience. Social interactions that occur, whether in the form of cooperation during hunting, food sharing, or simple rituals, form strong group cohesion, allowing them to survive in harsh environmental conditions. The shadows of fire dancing on the faces of group members, the expressions of children learning, and the meaningful silence form a visual narrative that conveys depth of experience without having to be spoken, enriching our understanding of ancient life. All these elements, when thought out as a whole, display complex, harmonious, and adaptive patterns of life, where every action, sound, and sign has a dual purpose, meeting practical needs while strengthening social and spiritual structures. That way, the audience can imagine the ancient nightlife as a subtle symphony of movements, sounds, and symbols where each element blends together to form a rich, mysterious, and captivating story, while maintaining a calm rhythm that supports comfort and preparation for sleep. In the dark and damp cave passages, torchlight shines against the limestone walls, revealing ancient paintings full of signs and symbols. Each red, black, or yellow stroke tells a story that may never be fully understood by today's generation, but for those who create, it is a living language, a reminder of existence, courage, and mystery. Behind every animal figure, human or abstract symbol, lies the story of hunting experiences, natural events, and spiritual beliefs that are passed down visually so that the next generation can read the same world, feel the same joy, fear, and hope. The moist smell of the cave, a mixture of soil, rocks, and torch smoke, adds a dimension to the sensory experience, strengthening memory and emotional bond with the place. They placed artifacts near paintings, animal bones, stone fragments, or ritual objects that seem to be a bridge between the physical world and the spiritual world, giving additional meaning to the symbols drawn. As night spread into the cave, torch shadows moved across the walls, bringing the paintings to life as if dancing, creating a performance that engages all the senses, forming a holistic understanding that is hard to grasp with just words. Every cave visitor, whether ancient humans or future spectators, is called upon to read the rhythm of movement and shadow, understanding symbols as part of an emotional and intellectual experience rather than just a static image. Daily activities such as lighting a fire, moving stones, or preparing ritual materials become moments of learning and meditation, where each action is repeated with mindfulness, teaching discipline, precision, and respect for the environment and ancestors. Children who witness this learn to imitate movement, understand the meaning of symbols, and instill curiosity and alertness, while adults quietly assess their readiness, ensuring cultural survival and survival. The sound of water droplets falling from stalactites, the friction of feet on moist soil, and the sigh of ancient human breaths combine in a complex symphony, emphasizing the close relationship between physical space, activity, and spiritual experience. Each torchlight spot highlights a different part of the painting, resulting in an ever-changing experience, requiring the observer to reinterpret the meaning over time. In the silence that is awake, there is tension and awareness that the cave is a sacred place, a witness of life, death, and prayers spoken in silence. Footprints on the ground, hand scratches on stones, and artifact arrangements create patterns that remind ancient humans not only survived physically, but also built a rich symbolic world, which served as a psychological and social support. Every night in the cave is a lesson about time, change, and sustainability, where simple activities become rituals, symbols become messages, and torchlight becomes mediators between the real world and the spiritual world. By understanding the relationships between humans, artifacts, and symbols, we can see how ancient life formed a complex, collective consciousness where each element of the physical and cultural environment complements each other, providing a subtle guide to behavior, morals, and a sense of group identity. This experience teaches us that although spoken language may be lost, visual, physical, and ritual traces remain a window to understanding the thoughts, emotions, and social structures of ancient humans, keeping mysteries while inviting imagination to engage deeply. Every detail, from pigment colors to symbol shapes to artifact positions, is organized with full awareness, reflecting a deep understanding of the world, the rhythms of nature, and human psychology. And even though we never fully know what they mean, the patterns left behind speak of caring, beauty, and eternal curiosity, inviting the audience to reflect, relax, and let the mind drift into distant but near times. In a valley shrouded in fog, where small rivers wind between ancient trees and moss-covered rocks, ancient humans tread the same path for thousands of years, leaving traces now hidden beneath the layers of soil and leaves. Each step is not just a physical movement, but also part of a life rhythm full of alertness, calculation, and understanding of the surrounding environment. They watch the sky for weather signs, hear the sounds of animals in the forest to predict danger, and watch the direction of the wind to find out the location of water and food sources. In the silence of the morning split by the first sunlight, they feel the world with an intensity that may be difficult to imagine for us today. Daily activities such as gathering fruit, hunting small animals, lighting fires, and building shelters are carried out with measured, careful, and conscious movements, where every mistake can be fatal. And every success is celebrated simply but meaningfully. Children learn from observation, mimicking adult movements, and understanding how to read nature signs, bird sounds, wet soil smells, and light directions to build survival skills. Sometimes they find the remains of a dead human or animal, and in that silence, they put small objects around it, rocks, bones, or leaves as if to pay homage or maintain a balance between life and death. The sound of nature became an invaluable teacher, from the rustling of water, the rustling of the wind in the trees, to the roar of wild animals far away in the distance, forming a symphony that not only informs, but also instills fear, respect, and attachment to the world they inhabit. Every movement of the animals they observed, from birds perched on branches to mammals passing through valleys, was interpreted as part of a larger lifestyle, giving them guidance on seasons, hunting opportunities, and potential hazards. In the middle of the night, as the moonlight penetrates the crevices of trees, and their shadows extend on the ground, the sound of bonfires, whispers, and light laughter blend with the darkness, creating an intimate moment where communities feel connected to each other and to the environment. Simple tools of stone, wood, and bone were used not only for hunting, but also for rituals, communication, and symbolization of everyday experiences, confirming that ancient life was a mixture of practical needs and spiritual reflection. They mark important places with simple symbols or stone piles, which to modern people may seem random, but to them are guides, reminders, and markers of local history rich in meaning. Each season brings change, forcing adaptation and innovation. From finding new foods to designing more effective weapons and new ways to communicate and maintain groups. Traveling far in valleys and forests, sometimes under rain or thin snow, demands patience and courage, forming individual characters while strengthening group bonds. Simple rituals in the morning or evening, ranging from lighting a fire to giving light to placing stones in a sacred place, provide opportunities for reflection, recognition of life, and understanding that they are part of something greater than oneself. In the silence of the valley, the gurgling of water and the gust of wind seem to speak of life, death, and continuity, leaving an impression that is difficult to describe in words, but can be felt through physical, emotional, and spiritual experiences. All of this forms a recurring narrative of life, where every step, voice, and action has meaning, maintaining a balance between man and nature, between the visible and the hidden. They live in harmony with the environment, understanding boundaries and potential, while imparting knowledge to the next generation so that the history and mystery they experience live on in collective memory. And when night covers the valley with a deep silence, the traces of ancient humans seem to whisper to us, inviting us to understand, reflect, and allow ourselves to drift in an eternal natural rhythm full of curiosity, tranquility, and wonder that never goes away. As we begin to trace the layers of mystery hidden behind the daily activities of ancient humans, we find that every seemingly trivial detail holds a much deeper meaning. The seemingly random position of the stone may mark an important migration route or hunting location, while the bones scattered on the ground may be part of a ritual or symbol of respect to the deceased. Even the remains of campfires, ashes left behind, and food remains provide clues about the patterns of life, food choices, and social interactions that shaped the structure of ancient communities. In the dim light, the shadows created by the trees and stones around them seem to move in the rhythm of nature, as if the forest itself was a silent witness of the life that took place within it. The sounds of the night, ranging from the roar of wild animals, the rustling of the wind in the trees, to the sound of the soft footsteps of ancient humans on the damp ground, form a symphony that is not only tense, but also soothing, teaching them to read the signs of Pred. The signs of Pred, my signs of the night, ranging from the roar of court to wise up. I see my case. UCC, my melissory side. My melissory side. My melicide, it's my melee. My melis. My selicate pride. My malmad karad. My melicats dabbed. You salpalide. Idosant be a goily I might seld it to be bicaclisa be cookicosite to we similis it to get to be to buy to rease it it's it to we I coos kick of sit scurry to you must begin to do it's nature and adapt to the environment. Some objects found at ancient sites, such as beads of stone or bone, appear as ordinary ornamental objects, but most likely have symbolic or ritual meanings, signifying status, achievement, or spiritual relationships that are not fully understood by us today. Modern researchers try to interpret the symbolic meaning of cave wall paintings, small sculptures, and simple carvings. But there remains an untouched layer of mystery, as if history itself keeps secrets that can only be felt, not explained. In closer observation, it is seen that ancient communities not only lived to survive, but also built narratives that connected them to the Sumslaw. But also built narratives .new, .live, my levs, and lives all aside, collive, Y-O-S, Y-O Celesting. In Limestall's last of my lio, while lio sick, to yo sigh, my elf. Eat my live, commit. YYO, yo side, YY, commiste uncovic to be a rely. YY wad in the mod side. Whirled around them rituals, oral stories, and symbols that strengthen social bonds while giving meaning to each event. Even in the solitude of the night, when some members of the group sleep or keep fire, they may practice meditation or simple prayer, connecting themselves with nature, ancestral spirits, or a greater power that they believe in. Layers of soil buried over thousands of years hold traces of that activity, from pieces of bone left after hunting, to pieces of worn and broken stone tools, creating a nonverbal but information-rich historical archive. The shadow of a campfire on a cave wall or on a rock surface can be a means of telling stories, training hunting skills, or teaching children about the vast and dangerous world. In the silence of the night, the sounds of nature seem to be talking to ancient humans, giving warning signs, opportunities, or comforts, and they learn to listen, understand, and respond with caution. Simple rituals, which may involve placing stones, bones, or leaves in a specific location, indicate an awareness of the life cycle, death, and greater continuity of themselves, forming a bridge between the real world and the spiritual world. Interaction between community members occurs in a gentle but meaningful way. Physical contact, body language, and simple facial expressions build understanding, security, and solidarity, which are the foundations of survival. They utilize knowledge about nature, weather patterns, and animal behavior to minimize risk, increase hunting opportunities, and optimize existing resources. Even the discovery of temporary shelters, such as small caves or canopies of twigs and leaves, shows skills in utilizing the environment efficiently while maintaining ecosystem balance. Every element of life, from simple tools to complex rituals, forms a network of meanings that are invisible but felt, providing a sense of identity, security, and continuity. In deep silence, as the moon hangs in the sky and the wind pierces the trees, shadows left by ancient humans, bonfires, and surrounding objects create an eternal narrative connecting the past with the present. They leave a mark that is not only physical but also spiritual, an archive that can be felt by those who come after it. Through a sense of wonder, calmness, or deep curiosity. Even now, as we walk in the same location, hear the sound of the wind, and touch the same stones, there is a sensation of connection with those who have lived and gone thousands of years before, bringing irreplaceable mysteries, lessons, and wonders. All of this forms layers of meaning waiting to be revealed, inviting us to reflect, appreciate, and allow ourselves to be absorbed in a subtle but profound story, as if hearing a whisper from the past that never fully unfolded. In its quiet and repetitive rhythm, ancient life teaches us that every detail, every action, and every ritual, no matter how small, has a role in shaping understanding the world, the self, and the relationship with the invisible. These layers of mystery do not have to be fully explained to give meaning. Sometimes let them remain hidden, letting curiosity and wonder live in silence, inviting us to continue to ask, observe, and feel. Ultimately, the mystery itself becomes the teacher, leading us to find calm, reflection, and a deep understanding of life, existence, and continuity beyond time. As we delve deeper into the layers of ancient human life, it is seen that every behavior, every object, and every trail left behind has a layered story. From fragmented rock tools to animal bones left after the hunt, everything gives clues about survival strategies and complex social interactions. Ancient societies not only hunted for physical needs, but also built social structures that subtly organized roles, responsibilities, and hierarchies through symbolic signs and simple rituals. The fires they ignite in caves or in open plains are not just a source of light and heat, but a center of social activity, a place to gather to share stories, teach young people about hunting techniques, or convey knowledge about plants and animals that are useful for survival. In the silence of the night, the sound of wild animals, the wind that penetrated the trees, and the rustling of water in small rivers formed a rich background of sound, teaching ancient humans to listen, feel, and interpret. The signs of nature carefully, a skill that is essential for survival. Even the existence of small objects such as beads from bones, simple carvings, or ordinary-looking pieces of stone may have ritual or symbolic meanings, signifying status, achievement, or spiritual connection with the world around them. Interaction between community members is also full of meaning, where body language, facial expressions, and simple physical contact become the main communication medium, building a sense of security, solidarity, and deep understanding between individuals. Traces of migration left on the ground, such as trails stretching from mountains to the coast, show the movement of complex, ancient communities, accompanied by adaptations to changing environments, weather patterns, and predator presence, indicating a high level of ingenuity and ecological awareness. Each cave chosen as a shelter has certain characteristics, both in terms of security, water access, and protection against wind and rain, indicating their ability to strategically utilize natural resources. Shadows created by the light of fire on the walls of caves or rocks around them may be used to train hunting skills, convey stories, or as part of rituals related to spirituality and understanding of the world beyond humans. Even simple habits such as arranging stones or bones in a particular place can be a form of symbolic communication, signifying territorial boundaries, hunting locations, or respect for ancestors. Sensitivity to nature is seen in how they read weather signs, animal behavior, or environmental changes, which help in determining hunting times, foraging for food, or moving groups to safer locations. Everyday activities, while seemingly simple, are part of a complex network that shapes life patterns, where each individual contributes to community survival and the survival of knowledge. Food collected or hunted not only meets physical needs, but also becomes a means of social exchange, a way of strengthening relationships between members, and a means of teaching young people about techniques to use resources efficiently. In the silence of the night, amidst the shadows of trees and rocks, ancient humans performed activities that seemed routine, but full of meaning, from lighting fires, cleaning hunting tools, to performing simple prayers, or rituals to ensure safety and abundance. Interaction with nature is not merely physical, but spiritual, where they understand the greater cycle of life, death, and continuity of themselves, creating a bridge between the real world and the invisible world. The existence of symbolic objects such as carvings, beads, or cave wall paintings becomes a medium to convey knowledge, stories, and experiences between generations, ensuring that even though ancient humans have left, their messages and meanings remain alive. Every layer of soil, every remnant of the hearth, and every bone found is a rich archive of non-verbal history, holding information about ancient human patterns, beliefs, and adaptations to their environment. In closer observation, it is seen that they are not only focused on physical needs, but also build understanding of identity, relationships, and the meaning of existence through rituals, symbols, and social interactions. The shadow of fire dancing on the walls of caves or on rock surfaces can be a skill exercise, a means of storytelling, or part of spiritual practice, showing how art and ritual are interrelated with survival. As the night drew to a close, natural sounds such as wind, streams, and wild animals formed a backdrop that taught them to stay alert, appreciate nature, and adapt to the environment, a skill that was invaluable for survival. All of these formed layers of meaning that were invisible but felt, providing a sense of identity, security, and continuity for ancient communities, while inviting us to reflect and appreciate the legacy left behind. Even today, when we walk down the same location, touch the same stone, or hear similar natural sounds, there is a sensation of unspoken connection with those who lived thousands of years ago, bringing mysteries, wonders, and lessons that remain relevant to modern life. This layer of mystery teaches us to appreciate small details, understand context, and let curiosity live in silence, so that we can continue to learn from the past by calmly appreciating and feeling the remaining wonders of ancient human life. In the quiet night, when the bonfire emitted a warm glow amidst the darkness, it was seen how ancient human life formed subtle, yet complex patterns, from their movements in the forest to simple rituals performed to honor ancestors and nature. Every remaining object, whether it's stone tools, animal bones, or the rest of the fireplace, holds very rich information about their behavior, priorities, and ingenuity. The footprints left behind in moist soil or migration paths that stretch from one valley to another are not just physical traces, but clues about social patterns, the division of labor, and how they deal with natural challenges. Daily activities that seem simple, like lighting a fire, preparing food, or making hunting tools, are part of a complex network that supports community survival. In the silence of the night, the sounds of animals, wind, and the gurgling of water became part of a listening exercise that taught ancient humans to read natural signs, predict danger, and make optimal use of resources. They not only interact with the physical environment, but also build spiritual relationships with nature and the surrounding beings, creating a deep understanding of life cycles, death, and continuity. Shadows formed on cave walls or on rock surfaces when the light of fire dances not only serve as entertainment or hunting exercises, but also as a medium to convey stories, prayers, or knowledge to other members of the community. Even small objects such as beads from bones or stones may be symbols of status, identity, or symbolic communication tools that strengthen social bonds and maintain continuity of knowledge. The long and complex migration path shows the ingenuity of ancient humans in adjusting to climate change, the presence of predators, and the availability of resources. In each movement, they combine collective experience, intuition, and knowledge to ensure the safety and survival of the group. Daily activities become meaningful rituals where physical work is combined with symbolic, spiritual, and social understandings that form the foundation of a stable and adaptive life. Each cave or shelter is chosen with considerations of safety, water access, and protection from natural elements. indicating their ability to strategically utilize the environment. Sensitivity to nature is seen in how they read animal behavior, weather signs, and environmental changes, allowing them to determine hunting times, foraging for food, or moving communities to safer locations. Social interactions seen in hunting, food sharing, and ritual activities demonstrate the complexity of relationships involving solidarity, nonverbal communication, and the division of responsibility. In the silence of the night, the sounds of nature, the shadow of fire, and the activities of ancient humans create rhythms that connect the physical, mental, and spiritual, forming a harmonious pattern of life with the environment. Even in silence, there is subtle communication between ancient humans and the world around them, which teaches us the importance of observation, adaptation, and respect for nature. Each layer of soil, fireplace remains, and bones found is a rich, nonverbal archive, storing information about ancient humans' behavior, beliefs, and adaptations to their environment. Symbolic activities, from wall painting to stonework, reflect awareness of identity, social hierarchy, and the meaning of existence, suggesting that their lives are more than just physical survival. The dancing shadows of the fire and the sound of the night form sensory and spiritual exercises that hone hunting skills, reading the environment, and strengthen community bonds. In this context, ancient human life was a blend of physical, mental, and spiritual, forming adaptive and complex patterns of life, leaving a trail that remains fascinating and mysterious to those of us who try to understand them thousands of years later. Every remnant left behind invites curiosity, reflection, and appreciation for a life full of meaning. Even though simple, and teaches that mystery and beauty are always present in every layer of history that remains. The connection between ancient humans and their nature reminds us to keep appreciating the environment, learn from past experiences, and understand that behind every simple action, there is a meaning and purpose that we may not always fully understand. The silence of night, the shadow of fire, and the sounds of nature form a subtle symphony that connects ancient generations with us now, leading us to a deeper understanding of the existence, resilience, and wonder of life. In every trace, every object, and every ritual, hidden messages are stored waiting to be discovered, eliciting curiosity and providing a rich learning experience. As if ancient humans left a lasting legacy in silence and mystery. As dawn began to shine on the valley and the morning fog enveloped the trees, it was seen how ancient humans adapted to the gentle but unexpected rhythm of nature. They woke up with first light, cleaned the living area, prepared hunting tools, and made sure that the fire that was lit the night before was still hot enough to prepare a simple breakfast. Their daily activities are not just about survival, but also about exercising full awareness of the environment, reading natural signs, and predicting changes in weather or animal behavior. Every move is full of consideration. From choosing the right tree branch for spears, sharpening stone tools, to setting up traps in animal paths. Everything is done with precision that signifies a deep understanding of their ecosystem. Moreover, simple rituals such as placing a certain stone around a fire or sprinkling ashes from a fireplace in the direction of the wind may seem trivial, but for them, it is a way to maintain a spiritual connection with ancestors and natural spirits. They live not only for themselves, but as part of a larger network of life, where every physical action is balanced with complex, symbolic, and social meanings. Children learn by observing, imitating, and questioning through gestures and interactions with adults, forming an early understanding of survival skills, solidarity, and community values. Women and men have flexible and adaptive roles, alternating between hunting, gathering food, cooking, keeping fires, and caring for younger or older members of the community. In the morning silence, forest sounds such as the rustling of water, the chirping of birds, and the gust of wind become part of the learning process and sensory exercises that strengthen their relationship with nature. The paths they travel are not just a means of movement, but also a walking archive that records animal behavior, changes in seasons, and the existence of important resources. Every leftover food, animal bone, or stone fragment left behind adds information to the next generation, forming a collective knowledge that is passed on non-verbally. Even in silence, ancient humans appeared to be making subtle communications through symbols, sounds, and movements, which marked social hierarchies, relationships between individuals, and warnings about dangers or opportunities in the surrounding environment. The activities of keeping fires, making tools, and preparing meals are interspersed with light conversation, shadow hunting exercises, and simple stories that build collective memory, strengthen social bonds, and community identity. Every day is an ongoing exercise in adaptation, problem solving, and the development of flexible life strategies, balancing physical needs with environmental and spiritual awareness. Even seemingly trivial things, like choosing a seat around a fire or a stone sequence laid as a sign, have a dual function: physical for comfort and symbolic to maintain harmony and connection with the invisible world. Early human activity in the morning, though seemingly simple, is part of a complex system that combines empirical experience, intuition, and a collective understanding of life, death, and continuity. They realize that every step, every action, has consequences that can affect the safety and well-being of the community, so that prudence and full attention become inherent principles of life. Behind the seemingly ordinary morning rituals, there is a depth of meaning about human relationships with nature, community, and the spiritual world, showing that their lives are filled with subtle but powerful awareness and sensitivity. Interaction with the environment and others becomes an ongoing exercise in reading natural signs, understanding the behavior of living things, and maintaining the balance of ecosystems that sustain their lives. Even physical activities such as cutting wood, sharpening rocks, or carrying water from rivers are arranged in such a way that they are efficient, safe, and in harmony with the rhythms of nature, reflecting technical skills and complex life strategies. Every object left over from the morning, from animal bones, hunting tools, to former fireplaces, becomes a nonverbal historical record that tells how ancient humans interacted with the world around them, how they learned, and how they taught the next generation. Their lives are a harmonious combination of physical, symbolic, and social activities that form the foundation for long-term survival, while leaving a mysterious trail that captivates our current curiosity. In this simple yet meaningful morning rhythm, it is clear how ancient humans balanced physical needs, social awareness, and spiritual relationships, providing lessons on patience, observation, and respect for life and nature. The stillness of the morning, the soft light, and the quiet activity form a rich landscape of life, full of puzzles and mysteries, yet still flowing naturally, inviting us to reflect and imagine the lost world yet still live in the trail left behind. In the afternoon, as the sun began to lower its light and the shadows of the trees extended on the ground, ancient humans returned to their resting places, bringing hunting and food items collected throughout the day. The aroma of meat being cooked over a small fire blends with the smell of wet soil and leaves, creating a soft atmosphere, yet rich in sensory details. The afternoon activity is not only about preparing for dinner, but also the time of reflection and maintenance of tools where stones are sharpened, wood is prepared, and trap tissue is checked. Each action is guided by collective experience and knowledge, combining intuition with strategies that have been tested by previous generations. Among physical activities, there are subtle rituals that mark respect for nature and ancestors. Certain stones are placed in special positions. Ashes from the last fire are scattered on the ground, or the collected leaves are arranged to mark paths or provide protection for animal nests. Children who have observed morning activities begin to imitate and learn through hands-on practice, adding to their insights into survival skills, social values, and interactions with the environment. The conversation in the afternoon was often gentle, flowing like a small river that filled the valley with a quiet voice, talking about experiences, natural events, and stories about the creatures they saw or heard. The afternoon atmosphere also provides opportunities to strategize, correct mistakes, and plan the next step, both for hunting and other activities that require group coordination. Every movement, from rekindling the fire to regulating firewood, is carried out with full awareness of the environment, ensuring safety and efficiency. The elongated shadows, the sounds of night animals that began to be heard, and the gentle wind that blew became part of a sensory exercise that strengthened the observational and space awareness abilities of ancient humans. Social interaction in the afternoon strengthens community bonds. Laughter, gestures, and light touches build solidarity and a sense of security, preparing mentally and physically for the night ahead. They live with the understanding that every element in the environment has meaning, and every action has consequences to be taken into account, so that care and attention become part of everyday life. Equipment prepared in the afternoon, from spears to traps, is not just a physical tool, but also a symbol of strategies, experiences, and collective knowledge inherited. These activities create a smooth yet consistent rhythm, marking a shift from productive morning energy to reflective afternoon calm. Even simple actions like placing a stone or moving a leaf have a double meaning, functional for physical needs, as well as symbolic for maintaining balance and connection with nature and the spiritual world. In the silence of the afternoon that continued to subside, ancient humans prepared for the night, understanding that every sound, shadow, and scent had information that was essential for safety and survival. This atmosphere teaches patience, observation, and the ability to read subtle natural signs, and forms the foundation of skills and wisdom that persist in collective memory. From the scent of fire to the distant sounds of animals, every detail is perceived and interpreted. forming a deep understanding of the environment and the role of individuals in maintaining community balance. The afternoon activity shows how ancient human life combined physical, social, and symbolic elements harmoniously, creating soft but rich patterns of meaning and leaving a mark that, while vague, still invites our current curiosity. In this slow evening rhythm, we can feel how they live in harmony with nature, how each step is full of consciousness, and how silence and simple movements become a language that conveys unwritten experiences, strategies, and values, but lives in every action. As night approaches, evening preparation and reflection become a bridge between the mysterious worlds of light and darkness, providing opportunities for ancient humans to strengthen themselves, build solidarity, and maintain a balance between physical and spiritual needs. Before entering a night full of puzzles and challenges, as night approached, the air began to cool, and a thin mist crept between the trees. Ancient humans lit a larger fire in the center of the settlement, a fire that was not just a source of light, but also a symbol of protection and unifying the community. These flames reflected the shadows that danced on their faces, and the sound of burning wood cracks added to the dimension of the quiet yet alert night rhythm. Night activities are not just about survival, but also rituals and reflections, where stories about ancestors, hunted animals, and the day's experiences are shared in whispers and light laughter, strengthening emotional bonds and teaching unwritten knowledge to young people. In the light of fire, polished stones and weapons were re-examined. Every fragment of bone, animal skin, and tool of wood or stone was neatly arranged, as if each had a certain place and role in the world they understood. Children listen attentively, learn to read natural signs, appreciate tools, and understand social rules formed from years of experience. The sound of wind and night animals is the background for this activity. The sound of owls, insects, and the rustling of leaves that indicate the presence of predators or changes in weather, so that each sound becomes information that is understood with high precision. Sometimes, on the banks of settlements, some adults place stones or wood to mark paths, reminding community members of safe boundaries or secret locations, while others prepare food or medicine from previously collected plants. This attention to detail is not solely for physical needs, but also as part of a symbolic ritual that connects ancient humans with the spiritual world and invisible natural forces. Meanwhile, the shadows of fire moving on the walls of caves or trees create visual illusions that spark imagination, encouraging oral stories that foster admiration, fear, and respect for the surrounding environment. In the silence of the night, simple actions such as moving leaves, adjusting the position of the stone to sit or sleep, or rearranging food scraps into meaningful activities reflect a deep understanding of nature's rhythms, safety, and community harmony. Every movement contains an awareness of risk and opportunity. Every sound at night can be a warning or sign, so ancient humans developed an extraordinary sensitivity to the environment. The warm light of the fire and the scent of burning wood create a calming atmosphere. Yet beneath it lies a lifelong alertness, guiding each action with a honed intuition through long experiences. This atmosphere teaches about the balance between security and exploration, between physical activity and reflection, between the real world and the symbolic world reflected in rituals, stories, and social interactions. As community members began to rest, the silence of the night took over, leaving behind the slow, shrunken sound of fire, the gentle breeze, and the world as if whispering about an unsolved mystery. In this rhythm, ancient humans learned to respect the cycles of nature, understand their position in the web of life, and prepare for the days that followed, forming patterns that still influence the way we understand them to this day. Night becomes a time of introspection, observation, and energy recovery, where silence and firelight create a safe atmosphere, but still invite curiosity, letting the mystery of night hang in the air while guiding the younger generation to learn, observe, and appreciate every element around it. Through the almost silent night, the attention of ancient humans was drawn to the dark, star-studded sky, where the patterns of constellations became guides and symbols of old, orally passed down stories, connecting everyday experiences with the unchanging rhythm of the cosmos. For them, star motion and moon change are not just natural phenomena, but also markers of time, season, and opportunities for hunting or planting, so that every observation becomes part of a complex, even if unwritten, system of knowledge. The sounds of night remain as friends reminiscent of fragile life. Buzzing insects, rubbing leaves, and night animals roam around the settlement, forming a symphony of nature that requires full awareness. The shadows of the remaining trees, rocks, and flames create visual landscapes that spark imagination, inspiring stories about spirits, legendary animals, or past events that serve as lessons for the younger generation. Ancient humans placed high values on the objects they touched and used. Remaining animal bones, sharpened stone tools, and plant remains were carefully studied to understand their usefulness, symbolic power, and potential dangers. The night rituals continue in a simple, yet meaningful way. Some members of the community may pat stones or pat the ground with a certain rhythm, creating a sound that resembles the first human drum, not for mere entertainment, but to harmonize the community's energy with the larger and invisible world. In silence, there is an appreciation for life and death. The burial of animals or members of previous communities is always remembered, their every trace being a lesson about the relationship between humans' nature and forces that cannot be explained. Children who witness all this learn to read the symbolic language of nature. Colors, shapes, sounds, smells, and movements become invaluable teachers in understanding their environment. Meanwhile, some adults guard the boundaries of settlements, mark safe paths, and explore the surrounding area to ensure no threats are approaching, making sensitivity to natural signs part of the routine inherent in everyday life. The remaining flame light faded, leaving long shadows and faint shapes, prompting the imagination to interpret the meaning behind each silhouette. In this atmosphere, awe and fear coexist. Ancient humans understood that the world was full of mysteries that they could not fully control. And this awareness formed an attitude of respect, caution, and creativity in the face of challenges. The sounds of nature become messages translated with high sensitivity, every whisper of the wind, crack of wood, or animal step leading action and decision, teaching the importance of a balance between courage and caution. Awareness of fragile life, the ability to read natural signs, and appreciation for rituals and symbolic objects form the network of knowledge that forms the foundation for cultures and traditions that will be passed down, although many of them will disappear over time. Night closes the day, gently letting the mystery stay alive among the shadows, the remaining light of fire, and the sounds of nature, creating a safe yet enigmatic space where everyone learns to appreciate life, prepare for the next day, and feel a deep bond with the wider world. In this silence, stories about ancient humans, their environment, and their relationship with nature and the cosmos remain alive in shadow, letting curiosity and wonder flow endlessly, creating a deep, calm, and melancholic atmosphere that invites long reflections before bed. As the night deepens, the entire ancient settlement sleeps in silence, broken only by the sigh of the wind and the whispering of leaves brushing against each other, creating a gentle and continuous natural melody. Long shadows from stones, wood, and trees seem to dance slowly under the moonlight, filling the space with a presence that feels alive yet remains calm. Amidst this silence, prehistoric humans reflect on their brief and uncertain lives, realizing that each day is a gift filled with experiences, lessons, and interactions that shape them into part of something greater than themselves. Children sleep peacefully, while adults guard the remaining fire that might serve as a sign of safety and warmth, allowing dreams and night shadows to weave into a tapestry of stories that only those living in that time could understand. The subtle sounds of nature remain rippling water from a distant stream, the whisper of wind through tree gaps, and the soft steps of nocturnal animals serving as reminders that life continues even though many things remain mysterious and unanswered. Amidst all this, ancient graves and remnants of past life lie silent, keeping secrets that will never be fully revealed. As if whispering stories about humans who have passed, animals that have gone extinct, and rituals lost to time. The gentle moonlight illuminates caves, stones, and remaining tools, transforming them into mysterious yet soothing symbols, providing a sense of continuity between past and present. All these elements merge into a calm, collective awareness where each individual feels part of the cycle of life and death, of birth and loss, of courage and fear, all without needing to be spoken. The stillness of the night, the slowly moving shadows, and the consistent sounds of nature create an atmosphere like a fairy tale, where every detail from bone fragments to footprints in the earth becomes part of a larger narrative about prehistoric life. As the night grows darker, the mystery surrounding the ancient world remains, allowing imagination and curiosity to float freely, yet still providing a comforting sense that flows gently through the mind, soothing heart and body. In gentle sleep, prehistoric humans seem to return to nature, becoming one with the forest, rivers, stones, and stars, leaving behind all fear and anxiety and allowing the world to remain full of beautiful mysteries. Their story is never fully complete. Every night sound, every shadow, and every whisper of wind serves as a reminder that the world always holds secrets waiting to be discovered, yet also always provides tranquility for those willing to reflect. Here the ancient tale softly concludes, not with definitive answers, but with the melody of nature, the rhythm of calm life, and a pleasing melancholy, leaving the audience peaceful, lulled by imagination, and ready to enter deep sleep with mysteries still alive in their minds. Finally, the night closes its curtain, patiently letting the ancient world continue to shine in shadows, stories, and gentle echoes, teaching us that mystery is not something to be solved immediately, but something to be enjoyed in calmness and ever-flowing wonder.